Hello, everyone, and welcome to this spoiler review episode for Doctor Who season 1, but really a lot of later seasons here.
I don't know how you count that. I don't know how you. This is not a season 1.
It's strange, right? Because I mean, Disney Plus considers it a season 1. When you go to IMDb, it is listed as a separate entry aside from the other Doctor Who stuff from 2005. And then the other Doctor Who stuff from before 2005 is listed as a separate entry. So it's very weird how it all works. But we're here to talk about episode 3 of this current season of Doctor Who. How about that here on the
Geek
Buddies?
Hey!
Mike, this is an interesting episode. We are really in the full swing of things here in this third episode, written by former showrunner Stephen Moffat, who did some of the best of the Matt Smith, Peter Capaldi years, which I was so excited to see Stephen coming back here as the former showrunner. But he wrote this episode, and this is an episode he said in interviews that he started writing 2.5 years ago. Yet what's going on in our world right now, Michael, it is a fascinating episode that feels like he wrote it over the weekend and shot it immediately and put it up as an episode of Doctor Who. We're dealing with the military-industrial complex. We're dealing with religion-motivated wars. We're dealing with AI and technology, removing the human element of it all. But we're also dealing with love and how father and daughter love can overcome things down the road. And, of course, adding to some more of the mystery here in Doctor Who. So, brother, what did you think of this third episode of Doctor Who titled Boom?
Well, I mean, we talked about this last week about, my good friend Doc Wyatt had said that particularly with space babies, that, Russell T. Davies tends to be a little bit more on the whimsical side sometimes, and left to his own devices gets a little silly, a little campy, and that Moffat can kind of be a little heavy, a little serious, but the combination of the two of them together is pretty solid Doctor Who. And I think, when you look at the Christmas episode that introduced the new Doctor, a lot of fun, did have some singing goblins and all kind of crazy whimsical stuff, but I really quite enjoyed it. The Space Babies one, a little silly by the end for some people. But the Maestro episode with Jinx Monsoon, I think a lot of people are like, this is really, really awesome. And then here you get what I like the most about Doctor Who, which is kind of a self-contained episode that just tells a really solid, interesting story all on its own, with not a lot of, on the surface, not a lot of connections to other things. Now, that being said, we still have this Susan Twist mystery. We have the actress playing the new companion because Ruby Sunday is only a 1-season companion. So they've already introduced the actress who's playing the new companion in this episode, and a lot of references and Easter eggs for hardcore Doctor Who fans. But to your point, an episode that just sort of is hey, let's talk about faith and the military and how we feel about some of these things, and AI coming in to take over everything and make the decisions for us. And there was a lot of stuff in there that was really interesting. And then just from a writing standpoint, when you as a writer give yourself an episode where your assignment is the Doctor stands on a landmine for 45 minutes. How do we make this interesting? How do we keep this moving? How do we keep the plot going? How do we not make this just, what do we do? And the way that they sort of slowly rolled things out and kept things going, I thought it was a really thrilling, really tense 45 minutes. And I think that the performances from top to bottom, most importantly, NCUTI GATWA standing on the mine, I think made it really, really strong. I think the Maestro episode, just from a over the topness and high conceptness, is still maybe my favorite, but this was a very, very close second. I really, really enjoyed this episode a lot.
Yeah, for many years, our friends, Mike Fox and other friends I had in my life, were trying to get me to become a Doctor Who fan. But it wasn't until I think Stephen Moffat took over as a showrunner and started to dive into these darker storylines, these more topical commentary on political and social issues, that Doctor Who became something that I gravitated to. And certainly Capaldi is where it started, but some of the Matt Smith stuff was there right at the end. That had elements under Moffat as well. So this is my kind of Doctor Who, where it's there's still some fantastical elements to it, but it's actually making a commentary about our world through the prism of sci-fi, right? Which great sci-fi does. Those great sci-fi novels are always making a commentary that feels futuristic, but very much topical to what's going on in our world. And so I liked that that was a very strong element throughout this particular episode. They didn't beat you over the head with it. And they used the Doctor's occasional nerd rage to call out the church and call out the military, even though he does have a respect for the church and the military. He always comes from a scientist point of view. So if you're doing it for the right reasons, he respects it. But he can, when he can find flaws in it, he will absolutely give you his 2 cents on it, which I like that was an element here. But also as a third episode, I thought this was a gutsy choice to come out with a third episode like this, because we're still getting to know Ruby Sunday and the Doctor's relationship. And what we got here is something that we should have gotten like way further down the road in this season, because their chemistry here, dude, was off the charts. Their connection reminded me so much of Amy Pond and Matt Smith, of Karen Gillan and Matt Smith. I saw the beginnings, and not just because of the custard and the fries thing, but also because just their connection already in that scene where Ruby comes and walks over to him, giving him the canister of John Francis Vader, and seeing the Doctor trying to tell her to stop, and she's like, good luck with that. The boldness of her, I thought, was great. And to jump so quickly from that from first episode to the second to the third episode, to see their connection, I think was another element of this that I thoroughly enjoyed watching in this.
Yeah, I think the two of them are really great. I think their chemistry is really great. And I think, to your point, I mean, just putting people in a very tense situation like this where look, I mean, like the Maestro episode is super fun, but there's a lot of eye candy going on there. There's a lot of plot going on. Everyone's dressed in cool costumes. You've got the Beatles in there. You've got a lot of things that helped make that episode really, really fun. To your point, this is NCUTI GATWA and Millie Gibson just talking to each other for a good portion of it. And the entire tension of there's a lot of great little details, like like as they're slowly getting to know each other, like when he is like, hey, take the vial and throw it up and down, and she does, and he's like, okay, that's about the right weight, and she's like, what do you mean about the right weight? And he's like, okay, it's exactly the right weight. I didn't want to brag. You know, there's lots of little things that as they're slowly figuring each other out, like she's realizing how smart he is, he's realizing how stubborn she is, and the two of them bouncing off of each other. I think, to your point, if they weren't as good as they are, if their chemistry wasn't as strong as it is, this would feel weird to be a third episode. This would feel like, whoa, these two people don't know each other this well to be putting them in this kind of situation. She's brand new to this, but she kind of just dives right in and you go with it. And I think that it was a really great episode, because I think now that they've pulled this off, episodes moving forward, I think the chemistry in our mind, the bond between them is that much stronger.
And you can take more chances, which is what you want to do. And obviously, if they sense that, I hope they do in these upcoming episodes, take more chances with this relationship and with this connection, because there's a fearlessness to Ruby Sunday that I really love. And I don't think I've seen since Amy Pond. Look, nothing against Bill and nothing against Victoria Coleman, but I felt like this is the partner that I haven't seen, or the companion that I haven't seen since Amy Pond. And I didn't watch much of Jodie Whittaker, so I'm not going to comment on the companions there, but I haven't seen this kind of fearlessness since Amy Pond, and that excites me as someone who is getting back into this season. But tell me about your thoughts on the plot here. Michael, did you like how we got into this? We got the Anglican soldiers here, which is a reference that was introduced in previous episodes of Doctor Who, which I can get to Easter eggs later on in the conversation. But we meet this guy, was it John Francis Vader, who was played by Joe Anderson, for those of you who liked the Across the Universe movie that was based on the Beatles. How ironic that a guy who was one of the stars of a movie that used the Beatles music is the next episode after an episode with the Beatles. But he is a father here who is caught up, and then we see this ambulance show up after his buddy is killed, in essence, and the ambulance kills him because his recovery time from his injury is too long, and so this program has determined that he must go, he must die, so they kill him and turn him into this interactive AI. And the Doctor stepping on the mine, because the Doctor loves or hears the scream, I guess, of pain, and runs over, steps on the mine. That begins this whole process. And then he eventually becomes his AI. And as the Doctor negotiates with this AI, he convinces the AI father to override the system and, in essence, turn off the mine and save Ruby, who's been shot. who's been shot by this guy who misinterpreted the situation going on there with Mundy Flynn. So your thoughts on the story overall here and where we end with the love kind of overriding everything. What do you think the story for this particular episode?
Well, I thought this was a really fresh take on we're afraid of AI.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, thanks to James Cameron, most of our we're afraid of AI sci-fi is the robots are going to kill us. Like we basically live in a constant, the robots are going to kill us. Now, this episode is a version of the robots are going to kill us, but instead of humanity fighting against an army of robots, the robots got really smart and basically have humanity fighting nobody and paying a lot of money to get more weapons to protect themselves from nobody. And the AI is going around and just deciding it's going to kill people within the right parameters to keep humanity fighting. So in a way, more high concept than the typical robots are going to kill us. But in a way, a little bit scarier because the reality of that doesn't seem as far off from killer robots walking down La Cienega Boulevard. Like the idea that our capitalistic nature is going to make us want to buy the best weapons and we need to protect ourselves from some other out there that is bad, and that AI gets smart enough to know that you can get humans to the point where we're just going to keep fighting something even if there's nothing there.
Yeah.
Like that is a very, very interesting idea. Then adding in the level of a bunch of robots just saying thoughts and prayers before they kill you is a pretty strong indicator of the opinion of the phrase thoughts and prayers, which is, you know, and Stephen Moffat said this in a few interviews, like he, and I agree with him. I have no issue with people's belief in the power of prayer, but the term thoughts and prayers being tossed out every time that there's some tragedy in lieu of taking any kind of action, that was really, really interesting as well. And then look, ultimately, and this is what I have come to love in becoming a pretty recent Doctor Who convert.
Yeah.
Doctor Who is built around some pretty optimistic ideals.
Yes.
Doctor Who, at the end of the day, really believes that the natural goodness of humanity, our natural connection to each other, our natural base inclinations to do good ultimately win out. So even when the main guy, was it Vader?
Yeah.
Is that even when he has become part of the algorithm, Vader, when he has become the algorithm, when he has become AI, the way the Doctor overcomes the situation is by appealing to his basic humanity. That even though he is just, and even Monday says it, she's like, oh, this guy is just, he's gone. Like, this is just AI. But appealing to that, you're a dad, help your kid. And that changes the dynamic, that little spark of humanity that still exists within an AI system is the thing that saves the day. So you're right. It's a ton of really fun commentary, but we could talk for hours about what we think it means and the commentary and the social commentary. But at the end of the day, it's a really cool, like, if the Doctor explodes, half the planet's going to go with him.
Yeah.
How do we get him off? How do we get him off of mine?
Yeah.
How do we get him off this mine? This is dangerous. And so all of the fun commentary around it, it didn't feel like that was the driving force of this episode. It was just a super tense 45 minutes with a very simple, I am standing on a bomb, and if I move, I'm going to blow up half the planet. What are we going to do?
Right. And Michael, you obviously, Michael, your experience is so great at being a showrunner here. You look at this episode as the third episode in this season over. I mean, you could argue, obviously you can
fourth if you count the Christmas episode.
But like at this stage in the season, you put your new Doctor in peril, standing on a mine, and B, you have your companion shot and 420 seconds away from death near the end of the episode. What do you think about the decision to do that? Is this kind of quietly a smart decision by the showrunner to be like, this is how I'm going to get people to care about them this quickly, is to put them in danger? Or is it a confidence? Like, I've done such a good job in these first 3 episodes. I know that putting both of them in danger will make the audience care about them even more before we get into the next episode. What do you think about that decision as a showrunner looking at it overall to do it this early in the season, threatening their lives like this?
It's going to be hard to say until we see the rest of the season. I believe this season is 8 episodes.
Yeah, I
It's a
think it's 8.
season.
Yeah.
8 episodes and then the Christmas episode. So is that 9 total? Like, is that what we're looking at here?
Yeah,
So I think that what it really boils down to sometimes, and this is true, is like you have a bunch of really great ideas, but and particularly if the Ruby Sunday story is wrapping up at the end of these 8 episodes, know that like, we've got to get here. We've got to reveal this here. We've got to do this here. And then here's the final episode where we're wrapping up the Ruby companion story. So you go, well, shit. We've got this really great idea. Moffat really wants to put the Doctor on a mine for 45 minutes. We can't put it back here because we got these episodes and this is where this information needs to be. And we really want this information to happen in this episode and this has to be here. Right. So I don't think that it was let's be really bold. I think that this was a really cool idea. And once they looked at their season, they went, okay, well, if we're going to do it, it goes here. This is where it fits. This is just where it fits. Like, that's what really, really happens. I mean, when you have a big idea for a season and you know that you've got to do X, Y, and Z, what you do is there's certain episodes that you can't move. The Christmas episode that introduces Ruby, it's going where it's going.
Yes.
And the introduction of Maestro, if these Pantheon characters are going to be a bigger part of this story, you want to get as early as possible. You have other plans down here. So you go, okay, this is where it falls. And I also think, what is her name? The actress from Andor who played Monday, VARADA Sethu.
Yeah, VARADA Sethu.
So also, again, and they've done this once before, like they've already confirmed that this is the actress who's going to be the companion after Ruby Sunday.
Right.
And the fact that her name is Mundy, kind of, I mean, it's not Monday, but it's close enough. But like, so they've already confirmed that she's the actress that's going to be the next companion. So they're putting her in here, and they probably want to put her in pretty early to drop that Easter egg so that then we can be anticipating where it's going to be. So I think there's a lot of reasons that this episode ended up where it did in the run.
Yeah. And this happened before. Like, I think Catherine Tate, her character was introduced before she became the companion, and I think Coleman's character was introduced before she became the companion as well. So, right. Yeah. So that's maybe that's what's happening here. Because I keep hearing, I know we thought, and we've been saying that we've heard that it's one season, but I saw reports this week saying that actually they might be bringing her on as the second companion for the second season. So it may be the 3 for the second season, and then she'll take over after Ruby is gone. Okay. So Ruby may hang out for 2 more seasons.
Maybe.
Yeah. So, but either way, she
regardless,
is.
Regardless, she is Mondays. You know what comes after Sunday? Monday.
There you go. And it's coming. What did you think of her, though, as an introduction? Let's talk about that. So since we're talking about it, VARADA Sethu coming in as Mundy Flynn. She is clearly connected to Vader's daughter there, Splice, which is an interesting thing to name your daughter. But she's taking care of the daughter as he's out there in the war, in the battle or whatever. Then he's killed. The daughter runs over when she hears his voice, and then Mundy comes over as well, has a confrontation with the doctor, shoots the doctor like 3 times there to show that she means business. And the doctor, of course, bounces back from all of that and then realizes what's going on, earns the doctor's begrudging respect. Then the guy who's into her comes running around, which I think is a bit of a weak storyline in the show, but in the episode, rather, he comes over as Mundy convinces Ruby to shoot her in order to stop the ambulances and all that kind of stuff. And then he shoots Ruby. And so she has to now take control of the situation with the doctor to make this all happen. So did you like this as an introduction for her character? Did you like her energy working with Ncuti and overall with Ruby as well, with Ruby Sunday as well?
Yeah, I thought she was great. I mean, look, I thought she was great in Andor.
Yeah,
I think she's great here. I think she was really good. I disagree with you about the storyline because I think that's what balances it out. I think what makes her work as a character is, let me put it this way. If you had a character who was really tough, battle hardened soldier, goes out, argues with the doctor about what's going on, and at the end sees the error of her ways and says, I'm going to take care of Splice, it would work. Sure. It's fine. You'd be like, she's a cool character. She's tough.
Right.
Adding in there's this guy that likes me that I really like, but I haven't said anything. And I just get right up to the point where I finally tell him I like him. And then he dies. And his final words at his death are, I know that you don't love me, but I love you. Look, this is like, you got me hooked. And you've got me hooked. And because she is going to be a companion,
Yeah.
I don't know that we've seen the last of Canterbury, the guy that likes her.
Oh yeah, maybe not.
This is
Right,
this
because he
is
came like an AI.
timey-wimey. This is timey-wimey Doctor Who stuff. Like, for all I know, them setting up this star-crossed lovers, I told you that I liked you right before you died, and your AI's final words were, "I know you don't love me, but I love you."
Yeah.
This feels to me, in the limited Doctor Who knowledge that I have, that we can go on a whole journey with her, and she's going to find another version of Canterbury somewhere in the big wide universe, and get her love back, and this is going to be some epic love story that goes over a couple seasons.
Well,
or it's going to be nothing at all. But like, that's my he died the way he died and said that, and the way they sort of left that, I was like, I feel like this isn't the last of this story.
Yeah, especially because he gets those last things to say to her, tell her he loves her, right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the tragic nature. Yeah.
But to my original point, to what you're saying, like, when you have such limited time in this 45-minute episode, and obviously the bulk of it is going to Ruby and the Doctor, adding in this little human story, this little, like, yes, I'm a tough soldier, but I kind of have a crush on this guy, and he has a crush on me, and we're kind of cute. Like, it just rounds her out enough that you you feel like you know a lot more about her as a character coming out of this episode than if you didn't have that.
I take your point. I just think they didn't flesh it out strongly enough for me, and I'll stand on that. But I respect where you come from. But I think they also showed a nice element to Mundy as well by having her trick him about the tattoo, and then show her tenderness with Splice. So it's funny, we didn't have a lot of time with her, but we got enough to, as you said, have a good idea of who Mundy Flynn is, and adding that element of a guy who told her, because I could also look at it another way. And I read one of the reviewers saying this. They're like, look, how much game do you think these Anglican Marines have in terms of romance? So although it may sound, some of the lines here were a little childish, and now that we're talking about affections for each other, it doesn't mean that it couldn't possibly exist in a situation like this, where they've been put into a war against things they don't even know or have never seen, and they're being manipulated by this military-industrial war complex to be a part of this situation. So how much would they have actually developed their interactions with each other and being able to say like these beautiful, meaningful things to each other? So I can understand that. And if she becomes the companion, or if they become that sort of, adding that element to me reminds me of what happened with Bill. Remember Bill and Heather and her love interest, who was like turned into a water creature. Bill sacrificed herself to go. Well, I don't want to ruin it, but yeah, Bill did, and to pursue this relationship. So it may have shades of that down the road, which would be interesting, as an interesting element to put in this as well. Yes.
When I finally go back and watch the Capaldi season, I will now know that happened. So thank you so much.
You know what? I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I think when you I think that when you jump into the Doctor Who universe, the traditional concept of spoiling something that happened kind of goes out the window, because I was all over the map. I've watched this Doctor and that Doctor, but not this Doctor. So I don't think that I think spoiling works differently in this fandom.
Fair enough. I appreciate that. And I'm sorry to anybody who might have felt it, but like, that's a great she's a great companion for Capaldi. I think you're gonna love it, and it'll still work for you. What about this? We talked about the military industrial stuff and his comments on war, but what about the religious aspect of this all, Michael? I mean, this idea where he says, I wrote down here, faith, the magic word that keeps you from ever having to think for yourself. So there's some comments here. Were you surprised at some of the harder, and the idea that, what's happening now is just a blip in the history of religion, where the church has always had a military carrying out wars, and you could argue the Crusades and so many other things. And now there's essentially a religious war happening, for lack of a better term, here with Israel versus Hamas. So there's all that element that's involved here topically. What did you think of this commentary on religion that was just coursing under the surface there throughout this?
Well, I thought it was, you know what? I think they did a really lovely job, because obviously there's a commentary on faith here, and blind faith. And I think what's happening here is you have these Anglican soldiers that have this blind faith that there is this alien creature. They've never seen it. Some of them think it's in the mud. Some of them think it's in the smoke. They have not seen this, and they are in a violent war, and they're all dying. And they just are going basically on blind faith.
Yes.
That, is it Villain Guard?
The industrial complex. Villain Guard. Yeah.
has
they know what the Kastarions are, right? Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're like, okay, this is it. But then the second that the doctor says, hey, this isn't true
Yeah.
at all, she goes, well, give me proof. And he was like, oh, now you need proof. Like, you won't take this on faith, but you'll take all that on faith. And I think that really, that gets into it, is that it's not, having faith is a value. And then when you get to the end and the doctor says, you know, you just got to have faith, or whatever he says. And Monday's like, oh, I thought you hate it. I thought you didn't like faith. And he was like, I might not like it, but it doesn't mean I don't need it.
Yes.
Like, it's like that line makes it all, this is not a condemnation of all forms of faith. And that if you, as a geek who loves geeky stuff, are a person of faith, that's wrong. Like, faith is a value. Blind faith is a problem. And that's, I think, what they're kind of saying here. And the fact that we are all hypocrites if we'd be hypocrites to not say that we don't pick and choose.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and this is true of everything. Like, and again, we can all argue these things, but it's like a lot of people who are very extreme right-wing people of faith, Christianity, they will come after homosexuality, but they won't come after divorce. And both of, it's like there's things in the Bible. It's like we all pick and choose. So this idea that, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have blind faith that there's an alien in the smoke, but if you tell me that there's no alien in the smoke, I need proof. Like, I think that is just a very interesting idea. And I think that's what Doctor Who does well, is this isn't just a one side good, one side bad argument. This is let's just throw some ideas out and let's say things in a certain way so that when the episode's over, you're just chewing on it. Like, you're like, okay. So, like, yeah, faith is important. Like, he needs faith. He might not always like faith. Faith might be a problem. Bad guys can use faith against you, but faith is also something that you need. Like, when Splice, I also thought it was really lovely the way that, Splice kind of came in and did the whole, where's my dad? Where's my dad? I need to be with my dad. I want to be with my dad. And then the AI comes up, and I get the way they play it. You kind of think this is kind of a naive girl who doesn't quite understand that this is not really her dad. This is an AI. But then at the end, she looks at the doctor. She's like, my dad's not gone. Yeah, he's dead, but he's not gone. And that's when he, like, NCUTI GATWA gives that huge smile. And he's like, that is exactly right. And that, so like those types of ideas, it's like, yes, he says a lot of stuff about how faith is bad, but by the end of the episode, you're seeing how there's still the power of that's really valuable and important.
Yeah, it's a scientist's approach to faith, in that faith is good and can be good in helping people, and especially if you believe in it. But as you said, the blind faith is where you get into these wars and where people can be manipulated. And so questioning your faith is as essential as having faith. And so when he says that to her, I think that line about, oh, now you need proof, that's in essence a commentary on always question your faith, because he makes it stronger. And I think that's a great point, that by the end, when he says that to her, doesn't mean I don't need it, which I think is, because faith can be anything. Faith in humanity, faith in love, it can be anything. So I like that was a part of this as well. Let's see. Is there anything more I want to hit on? Is there anything that's, I'm going to hit some of these Easter eggs and get your thoughts on it. But is there anything, if we haven't talked about the overall episode, that you want to make sure we hit, brother?
No, I think that's it. I just think, look, I love an episode that gives you some really tight parameters. Like, you put, here's two people are trapped in a bottle. What do you do? Like, that's the definition of a bottle episode. And this isn't necessarily a bottle episode, but this is it's a cousin. The entire episode takes place in this crater because the doctor literally can't move. And watching the way that they just kept upping the stakes to it, even the reveal, like this is just good writing. Doctor is stuck on a mine. Well, we're really worried. We don't want the doctor to blow up. We like the doctor. But then when Monday shows up and is like, I'm going to shoot you, the reveal is, hey, by the way, if I do blow up, it's not just me, it's half the planet. Right. Like that raises the stakes. So you watch how just slowly revealing information to us raises the stakes without him ever having to, like, move more than a foot. Yeah. So that I just think it was a really well done episode in that respect. Like, there's definitely, we'll talk Easter eggs, but then just as far as, like, and this is part of the Easter eggs of it all, but it has snowed every episode now. That's what do you think about that ending? There was snow. He says to her, or does she say to him, snow isn't snow until it falls? And then we end with he says that at the end. He says that at the end. So what are your thoughts on the snow aspect of this all, Mike? I mean, look, this is the mystery of Ruby Sunday. I mean, Christmas Christmas and her origin are tied really closely together. And whenever she is in an extreme situation, whether they were having the flashback on the Space Baby spaceship, whether she is trapped by the Maestro, or whether she is near death, that snow starts falling. So she is seemingly controlling reality to a degree. And so that is really interesting. And again, actress Susan Twist, 4 for 4.
She is the AI there on the ambulance. Yeah.
So we've seen her. If you're keeping score, she's been in every single episode somewhere. She was in the Christmas episode in the bar when Ruby was singing. She is one of the astronauts that leaves under protests in Space Babies. She delivers tea to them at Abbey Road in the Beatles episode. And then she is the AI ambulance offering thoughts and prayers here. So why is she in every episode? Is this just fun? Do they just really like this actress? We'll see.
We shall see for sure. All right, so a few other Easter eggs here. The Skyboat song that the Doctor sings dates all the way back to the second Doctor from an episode in 1968. Play that song on a recorder, and you can listen to it. It's on YouTube, that song, which I thought was a really fun thing. The poem that he recites after the song doesn't work to calm him down for being on the mind. And again, Ncuti does a wonderful job acting throughout this entire episode. We didn't stress that enough. So good. I know you mentioned it. I want to underline it. He's so good in this episode. Loved it. Made me care about him so much more after this episode. But yes, then he recites the poem after the song doesn't work. And the poem is possibly a reference to a story that Missy, if you remember Missy, Michelle Gomez, told Clara back in the Magician's Apprentice episode, which is season 9, episode 1. Clara asks Missy how long she's known the Doctor. And Missy says, since always, since the Cloister Wars, since the night he stole the moon and the president's wife, since he was a little girl. One of these was a lie. Can you guess which one? And then later in the Hellbent episode, the Doctor corrects it, Clara, by saying that was a lie put about by the Shobogans. It was the president's daughter. I didn't steal the moon. I lost it. So some reference to Missy there, I think, is great because I love Michelle Gomez as Missy, and you'll love her too when you see these episodes with Capaldi. And then the idea of children comes again here. Mike, this is interesting, right? Because Ruby's left on the doorstep. The Doctor, we found out in the last version of Doctor with Jodie Whittaker, it was not a Gallifreyan. He was also left on the doorstep in essence. And now we have Splice, her father killed. So she, in essence, is a child there without parents and orphaned, I guess you would say, because her mom is dead. So she is orphaned. So
and not only that, but also when the Doctor appeals to Splice's dad, the AI is Splice's dad, he does it dad to dad.
Right.
They have underscored, underlined, put in bold, and changed the font of the word father to make it very, very clear that this Doctor has a kid. My daughter lives right over there. I am appealing to you dad to dad. So, the idea of parentage, the idea of being on your own, even when Ruby's on her on her deathbed, when the AI when the AI ambulance says next of kin, she says, who is my next of kin? So where you came from, who comes after you, all of these ideas. The Space Babies were all abandoned on the ship. Maestro is the child of the toy maker. So it is a constant theme throughout all of these episodes.
Yeah. And for those of you who may not know this, the Doctor had canonically 13 children, but under the run of David Tennant as the 10th Doctor here, it was revealed that his children all died in the last Great Time War. But then the episode, the Doctor's daughter happened, and the Doctor was unknowingly sampled with a progenation machine that birthed a 20-something blonde daughter dubbed Jenny, born to serve as a soldier. They bonded to save the day in that episode. Then she took off on her own uncharted adventures. So Jenny's out there somewhere, and go ahead.
When you talk about these things that I don't have any idea about, I'm like, oh, this is what people think we sound like when we're talking about Star Wars.
Yes.
When I'm literally like, okay, guys, hold on. So in the High Republic, the Nihil were doing this, but then Avar Kriss on Starlight Beacon, and I think I make perfect sense. And somebody is like, what the fuck is he saying right now? I don't know. Now I know how that sounds.
It's when I try to talk to you about pro wrestling. Georgia Moffat, who played Jenny, by the way, is the real life daughter of the 5th Doctor, Peter Davison, who married David Tennant. She married David Tennant, who played her father in Doctor Who. That's unwrap that. And the snack here that we talk about, of course, I mentioned earlier with the custard and fingers there. 11 is the Matt Smith and Amy Pond, the young Amy Pond, when they connect there. That's what helped. And this, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was gonna say, because I'm so new to Doctor Who and most Easter eggs go completely over my head, and then I know that we're gonna review stuff, so I go read some articles and I'm like, whatever. But when NCUTI GATWA said that he loved fish fingers and custard, it was an Easter egg. It's maybe the first Doctor Who Easter egg that I actually got because I watched the Matt Smith episodes with Amy Pond, and I just got excited that I'm like, oh, I get, like, I'm geek enough to, I got an Easter egg. I got one, but also I thought it was a really lovely nod. Like all the little ways that they do this, where they're like, and I thought even the song that he was singing at the beginning being a song that dates back to the Second Doctor, which I did not know, but I read about. I love how, as different as all of these Doctors are in their, obviously their appearance, but also their personality and their temperament. Like I saw an article that was talking about how you can just imagine what Peter Capaldi would be like if he were trapped on a mine for 45 minutes in a very different way. What David Tennant would be like, what Matt Smith would be like. All of them are, NCUTI GATWA is so, his Doctor, for better or for worse, if you like it, I happen to like it.
I do.
Is so emotional. So in touch with his vulnerability, so in like so it's just a completely different vibe. But then you have things like fish fingers and custard, and you're like, oh, it's the same guy. He's still in there.
But also being friends with a sassy gay man, he's also got those sassy gay lines like, I'm a lot more explosive than I look, and honey, I know how I look. So you got that element that hasn't been there before, which I thought was great. One of my favorite
lines. What you're talking about sassy gay friend. I don't know anyone who speaks that way.
Yeah, of course you know. And one last Easter egg here. The last line he says, "A sad little man once told me what survives of us is love," is a reference to the last line of the poem in Arundel Tomb by English poet Philip Larkin that was published in 1954. And it basically describes the monument in Chichester Cathedral where the statues of a knight and a maiden lie on their backs holding hands gently. And though the figures that inspire them are dead, their love lives on through this moment. So there's a lot of love, but there's a lot of death references coming throughout. So yeah, something's going to happen to Ruby here in some way that I think.
Yeah, the entire line that you said, the snow fall. What is it? The snow has to fall.
Snow isn't snow until it falls. Right.
Snow is straight up. If you watch Shogun.
Oh
like, what makes a flower beautiful.
Yeah,
like it's the exact same sentiment. And even what he says when Ruby's like, when they're at the end, when they're all looking at the awesome vista of the planets, and he's like, all right, it's been 2 minutes, we have to go. He kind of he references the fact that her life is a blip. Like to him, he's like, humans only live so long, so we're not going to spend more than 2 minutes because I want to show you as much as I can in the time you have. And to follow that up with the snow is only snow because it falls, you're like, there is a beauty to the impermanence of us, like that. That is something that's been coming up in a few shows that we've all been watching. So I think there's something really interesting about that too.
Great points. All right.
The one other thing, actually, really quick, because it's come up and I was reading some articles about it. Another thing is a little more subtle in this episode, but every episode of this season, including the Christmas episode, there's been a lot of fourth wall breaking.
Yes.
And that's something that, like, whether this is like just a fun creative thing they wanted to throw in, or if fourth wall breaking is going to be a little bit more important, but we've had a pretty consistent like references to a knowledge that we are in a story, like that kind of idea. And so I don't know if that's going to go anywhere, but the fact that that's been happening as consistently as the same actress popping up or Ruby's Snow, just something to keep an eye on. Yeah,
that's a great point. And we still haven't gone back to Mrs. Flood, so we'll see how that plays out on this. I tweeted this out. I said, it's interesting. Splice means to connect or join rope by interweaving the strands. I said the Doctor had to learn to speak rope for the goblins in the church on Ruby Road. Then a spore is what the boogeymen eventually were created from. And the spore, in essence, is like a rope leading you back to something else. And the song in The Devil's Chord, that's in essence combining different strands of music or different splicing together different strands of music to create one rope, which is the song. So I wonder if there's something playing underneath the surface for this rope connection stuff as well. But that's just because my mind is always with Dr.
Oh, no, usually I think your mind is crazy and wrong. That actually sounds pretty well thought out and makes sense. Like that all made sense to me.
You know what?
I'm not going to argue that one. That's not a Hayward Island theory. That's a
Well, you
okay.
know what?
You could bring that one to the mainland. That one we'll take.
Good. At least one got through. All right. Well, thank you all so much for watching this spoiler review episode of episode 3 of Boom here of the Doctor Who season is currently going on season 1, I guess, on Disney Plus. Michael, any final thoughts on this episode as we wrap up, brother man?
Thought it was really fun. Thought it was really fun. I'm really into the season. I'm really into the characters and can't wait to see where we go next.
I agree. I second that 100%. I'm so excited we're doing this together. Please let people know where they can find us, what we got going on, brother man. And your
If you would like to follow us, you could do so on Twitter at Geek_Buddies, on Instagram at _Geek_Buddies. If you would like to follow Mr. Rocha, you can do so at The Rocha Says. If you would like to follow me, you could do so at MKToon. And while you're doing all that, we would also like you to smash the like button, subscribe to Johnny's Outlaw Nation page, check out all the amazing content he's got there. Leave your comments below. Let us know what you thought of Boom. Where do you think the season is going? And how do you like NCUTI GATWA as the Doctor? And if you're listening to us on a podcast, leave us some stars and some comments and we'll go up in the rankings. And as always, the best thing you can do is retweet this video, post it on your social, send it to your friends, and tell them to hang out with your buddies, the Geek Buddies.
Bang. That was really well done. Talk about having a blip of time to do something. Great job there, Mike. All right. Y'all take care of yourselves. Be well, and we'll talk to you next time with another brand new spoiler review of Doctor Who here on the
Geek
Buddies.